It's Sunday morning in North Texas, and it's around 8 o'clock or so. And that highway that's off over there about a quarter of a mile from me sounds like it's as busy as on a Friday afternoon. But that's okay. We're going to work around that because today I'm taking that fire, I'm taking that post, and I'm taking this trivet and this Dutch oven, and I'm gonna make some beef stew because it's gonna get cold eventually, and we're gonna be ready for it. The weatherman keeps telling me it's gonna get cold. I don't know if I believe him or not, but it is the middle of October and it's got to get cold sometime, right? So actually it is supposed to get down in about the 40s later tonight. And to me, that's chilly weather. And I really like making chili, but I think I'm going to try to branch out a little bit. I have never cooked a beef stew in my life. So we went down and got us a chuck roast. We're going to make our own stew meat. We're going to add in some carrots, onions, potatoes, and a few other things. And y'all come along with me. We'll see how it works out. Then we'll see if it's something we want to do again, or maybe I just say, heck with that. Let's just keep on making chili. But it's nice to branch out a little bit. Give these folks that I cook for a couple of different options. So, like I said, stick around. Let's see how this thing works out. What do you say? Our fire keeps burning, doing exactly what we want it to do. All we're doing is just, well, keeping my coffee warm. And then we're just getting us a good, nice bed of coals that we can cook on here in a little bit. So far, so good. All right, we got us a chuck roast. And for some reason, it was already kind of split. So we're just going to go with the split. And what we're going to do, instead of just taking this and just cutting across and cutting across, we're going to cut along the natural borders, the natural lines that are already there. And that way, you're not cutting through that connective tissue, you're cutting along it. And you're going to end up with a whole lot more tenderer, just more tender. You're going to end up with more tender meat, more tender beef in your beef stew. So we just kind of follow this, just like this. I'm going to take these and I'm going to cut them into a little bit smaller, probably about half that size on each of these, once I get the whole trimming done the way that I want it to. So I make them just about bite size. And then, like I always do, any of these real hard, chunky pieces of fat, I'm going to throw those off to the side. We also have some bacon we're going to add into this in a little bit. But I'll show you all that soon enough. We got that chuck roast all cut up into smaller, a little bit smaller than 1-inch squares. And I seasoned it sort of kind of Lone Star meat chilada that I like. So I'm putting that. It's just sitting in there on it right now. I'm going to take all of this bacon and I'm going to cook it. And we're going to use the bacon for part of the stew, but we're going to use all of the rest of it, comes off of it, to flavor the onions and the carrots and the potatoes. So we'll get it going right here. We took all of these pieces, seasoned them up, and we're going to put them in here and brown them. Don't cook them completely, but about half of them ought to fit in this skillet. We'll brown them both both sides. Then we'll move them into that Dutch oven. Right there. We'll put all the rest of the fixings in there as well. Put it back on that trivet. Start stewing it up, y'all. What? Put the carrots and the potatoes. I'll put a little bit of onions on the next batch. Folks I cook for aren't that big into onions, but I put a little bit in there for me. So this is in that bacon grease and a little bit of avocado oil. And obviously not going to cook it all the way because you're going to transfer it all into the Dutch oven. Cook it over these coals for about an hour and a half, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. Coming along. So as these veggies over here cook down, and we just want to get them a little bit tender and get all that bacon grease all over them. So now then, just going to go ahead and transfer them into this pot as well. Yep, one for the dogs. I don't know if they'd eat carrots or not. I think they'd eat anything that drops, so they usually do. But let me show you what the pot's starting to look like. This, my friends, is the beginning of what's going to be our beef stew. Still got to put some beef broth in there. Still got to put some more veggies in there. But other than that, this is kind of what we're talking about right here. Now we need some cold weather. So while we're waiting on the rest of those veggies to cook, let me go ahead, fill this up, not fill it up, my fixins come to about here. So I'm going to put in enough beef broth. I'm going to put enough beef broth in, and it turns out it's one of these small ones. This is 32 ounces, and it turns out that was pretty much exactly what I needed, because like I said, my fixings come to about here, and that covers them up just about right. Still got more veggies cooking over here. Once I put them in there, we'll make sure that the beef broth is still the right level. If it's not, I got some more in there. We'll put a little bit more in there. Got a little bit more seasoning we're going to do. We're going to take some tomato paste. We're going to take some more seasonings, mix it up, kind of heat it up in a small skillet, and then we're going to put it all over the top. Then we're going to put it on that trivet, and we're going to put some hot coals on top, hot coals on bottom. Let it cook for about an hour and a half. Should be right around 350 degrees, kind of like if you were doing this in your oven, you'd have it at 350 degrees. And one trick we do in this is about every 20 minutes or so, we'll take and turn the Dutch oven this way, and we'll turn the the lid this way, and with the coals on top of the lid, just so it keeps a good even cooking, top and bottom. And we'll see if I have any idea how to make beef stew. I literally just have one more thing I'm going to do before I put this on that fire, but I wanted to show you what it looks like right now with the beef, the potatoes, the carrots, the onions, and I hope my iPhone is good enough to get the colors that are all in there, because holy moly, if it tastes as good as it looks, I think I'm on to something here, y'all. So all I got here is some tomato paste, garlic, some chili powder. Gonna just kind of heat it up, mix it all together, and just put it. I don't want it too warm, and I don't want it too thin. And put it right on the top of the stew. All right. right, we got everything that we want inside that Dutch oven, and we've got good, nice bed of coals on the bottom, and maybe a little heavy on the top. I'm probably going to dig some of those off of there. But let me tell you what I've learned, and this is important if you ever think you want to do this kind of cooking. Have a separate charcoal, a separate burn barrel, or somewhere where you can generate those coals other than this fire pit you're cooking in. That's been the most difficult part for me during this whole thing, is not, if I had a burn barrel off to the side or I had a second little small fire pit, these are super cheap. I could go down and get a second fire pit and just have it for burning the wood in for my coals, and then transport it over here. The way I got it going now is not the right way to do this, y'all. I'm telling you right now, this was, up to this point, you know, all the food prep is the food prep. It is what it is. But getting this part set up right here has been by far the toughest type of cooking I've ever done. It's worth it. I'm not complaining. I'm actually kind of bragging because I figured it out. But get you a second area, however you can do it. If you got more land than I do, if you're fortunate enough to not be living on a damn city lot, and you've got some area out there, look for a YouTube video on how to build a burn barrel. It's simple. 55-gallon drum, cut a space down in the bottom of it that you can fit a shovel like that into, and you just build your put maybe a basket or something, not a basket, but you know, grate up on the top, and burn that wood and let it get down there on the bottom, and then you can just shovel it out and put it wherever you need it to. So I think, because this was so difficult, I think one of the things I've got to do right now is I need to spread out those bottom coals around the outside, and I need to pull some of those off the inside. I'm going to be cooking way too hot if I don't do that. So that's what I'm fixing to do right now. So here's our stew. Let's do a little taste test. What do you say? So we're gonna try. Hang on. Let's do it a piece at a time here. Let's try some of this chuck roast. That's very tender. That's good. I'm happy with that. I'll take that all day long. Let's see, here's some carrots and some taters. I ain't gonna lie, this just made the rotation. I didn't put any green chili in it, which I wish I would have. Hold on, I'm gonna put the lid on it. I'll edit that all out. All right. I'm gonna roll it inside, change it, put it into something else more server friendly. But yeah, I'm all right with that. All right, let's talk about what we learned here today, because that was basically the deal I made with y'all when we started this thing. Was I'd try some stuff that I've never done before, and I would see how it worked out, and if it works out good for me, then you guys can take the part that worked out good and use it, and then the parts that don't work out good for me, I'm not gonna edit those out. I'm not gonna hide it. I'm gonna tell y'all when there was something that I could have done a little bit better than what I did. And boy, there was some stuff on this one. I'm gonna tell you right now, there are some things that if I don't figure them out, which I think I already got them figured out, if I don't get them figured out, I won't be doing this a whole lot more. But the number one thing is don't buy stew meat. Don't go down to the local supermarket and buy their pack of stew meat, because it's just the scraps that they really don't have anything else that they're going to do with it. What we did this time, and what y'all are to do every time, is get you a good chuck roast. We did that, and we got about a 4-pound chuck roast, and I put that in a 12-inch 6-quart Dutch oven, real Dutch oven. Y'all saw it with the lid that you can put the coals up on the top. And then I got this trivet, which a real good friend of mine, shout out to Danny, made for me out of some horseshoes and some railroad spikes. And then the other thing that I did was I used a cheap, you can get them anywhere, fire pit you can find out there, just a big metal plate. They run about $59 on the high end. You can get them about $39 sometimes. And that's what I cooked it over. You don't need to have something fancy. If like I said earlier, if you're lucky enough to where you don't live on a city lot like I do, sucks. But if you have some land and you can just, get you a hole and get you a good grate over the top of it, just any grate you can put together and cook on that, God bless you, do that. But if you're like me and you got a neighbor there and 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 a neighbor right there. By the way, we love that neighbor right there. We like that neighbor right there too. The one on either side of us we like a lot. We can't stand this neighbor right here. They don't watch my YouTubes. I don't care. But anyway, if you're fortunate enough not to have umpteen neighbors all the way around you, then build you something really cool. But if you got a lot of neighbors and you don't feel like digging a big hole in the ground, or you just don't want to do it, go get you a cheap fire pit. Use that. Here's what you don't want to do, and this is what I did, and I will not do it again. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to have one place to burn your wood so that you get your coals and you're cooking in that same spot. This is the hardest I ever worked on a cook ever. I broke a sweat, y'all. I worked harder at this than I did at my job. And I worked hard at my job. This was tough because what you had to do was, it's not big enough. I just got through saying it's just right. Well, it is for what I did, but it wasn't big enough to have your coals burning over here and your trivet set up over here and your Dutch oven on top of that and doing all of your cooking. It just wasn't, there wasn't enough space. There wasn't enough, you didn't have enough, you had too much going on for the space that you had. So you can do a couple things. You can go buy you 2 of these cheap little fire pits, and you can have one set up here and one set up here, one set up here, one set up here, and you can be burning your wood and making your coals, and then you get your shovel and you just bring them over a little at a time for what you need. Or again, if you're kind of out in the country a little bit, you can build you a burn barrel. Make sure that make sure before you cut it, it's big enough that you can get your shovel up under there. Whatever kind of shovel you use, anything from a sharpshooter to a spade to a snub nose, a little flat nose. But it's fun. It's the most fun I've had cooking in quite a while. It was a lot of fun, and whenever I taste tested that a couple minutes ago and it came out as good as it did, holy snapping terrapins, Margaret, was I happy. I took some in there to my wife, had her try it, and as we have documented on multiple occasions, she ain't much of a red meat eater. She likes her chicken or turkey. She does like pork whenever I do certain types, but she liked this. It is so tender. Oh my gosh, it is just so tender. Brown it in a skillet, put your chuck roast, the cubes, in that Dutch oven. Cook your bacon, put it in that Dutch oven. All your veggies, cook them in that bacon grease. Put those in the Dutch oven. Take you some tomato paste and mix in some garlic, some chili powder, whatever else you want to. Make it a nice good paste. Put it over the top of it. Put that in there and just let it go for about an hour and a half. Mine cooked a little less than an hour and a half because it got a little bit louder, a little bit hotter than I meant for it to. But it didn't burn. It didn't mess it up. It worked out. And that's what we're going to eat off of all night tonight during the rest of the football games. Go Cowboys. Then we're going to put it all in a bunch of containers, and we're going to keep it for the rest of the week, and we're going to eat off of it for the rest of the week. And even with the high price of beef, the way it is right now, going through the roof, this was a pretty economical meal for the two of us to last us for probably more than a week. And we'll take some to the neighbors. And Tina, if you're watching, my daughter, tell me if you want any. I'll bring you some too. What I really mean to say is thank y'all for watching these videos. It means everything to me. I appreciate it. I have so much fun doing them. And it's something I really enjoy. And I really appreciate every single one of y'all that takes the time to watch them all the way through and makes a comment. I've told y'all before, sometimes the comments are the best part. Hope y'all have a good holiday season. They keep saying the supply chain is going to ruin Christmas. If you think Christmas revolves around a supply chain bringing in goods and services, you don't really understand the whole Christmas spirit part. Christmas ain't about what you buy for other people. Christmas is about being by other people, standing by other people, recognizing those other people. That's what it's about. God bless y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Y'all take care. Keep on smoking.